Welcome to This Explainer. Today we are diving headfirst into Silent Zone. It's this absolutely gripping narrative about a totally collapsed world. But it's not just another story about outrunning monsters. It's actually a really profound look at the human psyche when literally everything we know is stripped away. It really makes you wonder how any of us would react if we were pushed to the absolute brink. So, let's get right into it.
I want you to really think about this for a second. If your loved one turned into a monster, could you pull the trigger to save a complete stranger? This impossible, agonizing dilemma is the very heartbeat of the story we're unpacking today. It's a question that sets the stakes for everything that follows, and it's the exact situation our characters are going to find themselves trapped in. Keep this question in the back of your mind as we watch society completely crumble.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, the deadly zombie outbreak, the day the world changed in just a matter of minutes. Picture this, because it all goes down so incredibly fast. Minute 1, a little boy is just sitting there watching cartoons when an emergency broadcast hits. This highly toxic virus is sweeping the globe, turning people into horrific monsters. By minute 10, a little girl named Abigail and her family are in full panic mode. They get a frantic video call from her dad, who's a pilot, stuck at work. On screen, he holds up this handmade lucky bracelet Abigail actually made for him, giving her this fleeting, brief moment of hope. But man, the timeline moves terrifyingly fast. As they try to flee, Abigail's mom is attacked and infected right in front of her. Hiding under a car, little Abigail watches her own brother and mother turn. Just as her zombified mother lunges for her, out of nowhere, this mysterious stranger named Jack appears. He shoots her infected family members without a second of hesitation, pulls Abigail from the wreckage, and basically becomes her sole savior.
Fast forward a decade, and we hit part 2. 10 years of survival in a brutal new reality. Spending a decade in a total wasteland creates two wildly different mindsets. On one side, we have Abigail. Now, despite being raised in this literal nightmare and trained as a lethal survivor by Jack, she desperately yearns for human connection. She dreams of finding a safe community. Contrast that with Jack. His mindset is just pure, paranoid isolation. He firmly believes that in this new world, desperate humans are actually way more dangerous than the undead. It's this fascinating clash of hope versus cynicism, a real reminder of how trauma shapes us in entirely different ways.
So these two clashing worldviews, they completely blow up during a botched rescue mission. Jack decides to use a swarm survivor as a live test for Abigail's marksmanship, but Abigail rushes the shot and accidentally hits the survivor alongside the zombie. When Jack sees the man is fatally bitten, his cynical nature just instantly takes over. He coldly executes the suffering man to prevent him from turning, and then, if you can believe it, takes the dead man's boots. But instantly, they find themselves completely surrounded by the victim's heavily armed group, led by a pregnant woman named Megan and her husband David. The tension here is absolutely suffocating.
Which brings us to part 3, the journey to Shiptown and fleeing a massive horde.
Cornered by the undead, they have to team up to attempt this miraculous escape at an old, abandoned airport. David, who happens to be a mechanic, is frantically patching up this rusted-out small airplane. Meanwhile, Jack is standing his ground outside, holding back literally hundreds of ravenous zombies with just a massive hail of bullets. With no one else who knows how to fly, Abigail jumps into the cockpit, relying purely on these faint, decade-old childhood memories of watching her pilot father. And miraculously, they actually take off. But, a 10-year-old abandoned engine? Yeah, it doesn't hold out, it blows. And the aircraft crashes violently into the woods shortly after.
They do survive the crash, and that night, taking shelter at a ruined train station, we get this rare, heartbreaking glimpse beneath Jack's icy exterior. He confesses to Megan that 10 years ago, his own wife was infected by the virus. He tells her, "I had to shoot her with my own hands. That day, the human inside me died." I mean, just think about what that does to a person's psyche. It's a chilling insight into exactly why he shut his humanity away, and why survival at all costs became his absolute only religion.
But right while Jack is finally opening up, David is hiding something huge. He's harboring a zombie bite on his leg from the earlier chaos at the airport. The virus is slowly taking over his body. When Jack inevitably discovers it, David begs for just enough time to deliver his pregnant wife safely to the gates of Shiptown. It's an impossible gamble, but Jack, maybe moved by his own tragic past, actually agrees to risk all their lives to honor David's dying wish.
Okay, moving into part 4, the mad scientist's trap. Talk about a deceptive sanctuary.
Their grueling trek brings them to this brightly lit house deep in the forest. Looks like safety, right? Wrong.
It brilliantly illustrates how the apocalypse just completely twists the human mind. The kind man who welcomes them in is actually a deranged scientist who has developed this psychotic concept he calls the upgrade. He truly believes the zombie virus isn't a disease to be cured, but an evolutionary tool designed to eradicate the weak and empower the strong. He's even gone so far as to develop a remote control device that can manipulate the undead. This so-called sanctuary quickly turns into a literal house of horrors. The scientist drugs their food, and they wake up tied down in a laboratory. The deranged host actually unleashes his own zombified wife from a cage to attack them. But this is where David's hidden secret actually turns out to save them all. The virus gives the mutating David this surge of immense, unnatural strength. He breaks his restraints, fights off the zombie wife, and frees the group. As the scientist summons a massive horde with his remote, David makes the ultimate choice. He uses his final moments of humanity to hold off the zombies, completely sacrificing himself so Jack, Abigail, and his pregnant wife Megan can escape.
And that brings us to Part 5, the fall of Shiptown. Basically, paradise completely destroyed.
Carrying the immense, heavy weight of David's sacrifice, they finally reach Shiptown, and Shiptown represents this fascinating dual reality. On the surface, it's a bustling, joyful utopia built entirely on massive cargo ships. It's where Abigail finally finds the human connection she always dreamed of, and Megan actually gives birth to her baby. But beneath the surface lies this dark, deeply paranoid secret. Abigail discovers that the city's leaders have secretly rigged the entire floating city with explosives designed to instantly destroy it at the very first sign of an outbreak. It is literally a ticking time bomb.
Well, total disaster strikes when that mad scientist from the forest tracks them down. Using his remote, he commands a massive zombie king and a whole army of the undead to attack Shiptown. Chaos erupts. The water defenses completely fail and zombies just swarm the cargo ships. In the bloody struggle, Jack manages to smash the scientist's control remote, and without the remote, the zombies immediately turn on the scientist and devour him. Poetic justice for sure, but it's too late for the city. The panicked community leaders pull the trigger and detonate the hidden explosives, reducing Shiptown to burning rubble.
Which leads us to our final act, Part 6, a heartbreaking final choice, the ultimate nightmare. Out of the ashes of that massive explosion, the terrifying, totally unkillable Zombie King rises. Covered in ash and rage, it targets Abigail. Jack steps in, fighting with absolutely everything he has, but he is brutally overpowered. He is on the verge of being killed right in front of the girl he spent the last 10 years protecting.
Abigail grabs a gun from the rubble, aiming it right at the monster to save Jack. But as she looks down the barrel, she freezes. Her eyes lock onto something horrifying. A handmade lucky bracelet hanging on the monster's wrist. The very same bracelet she made for her father on the day the world ended. The Zombie King is her dad.
And this leaves us right back at the ultimate dilemma. Who is your true family? The blood father you lost to the virus, who is now a monster about to kill, or the hardened protector who kept you alive for 10 years? Well, in a split second, Abigail answers the question. She pulls the trigger, killing her zombified father to save Jack. It's a profound, utterly heartbreaking choice that redefines what family even means in a broken world. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If everything you loved was stripped away, how far would you go, and who would you sacrifice to protect the person standing next to you today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this breakdown was as fascinating for you as it was for me.